This video discusses real crimes involving murder, abuse, trauma, and teenage defendants. Some subject matter may be upsetting. The information is presented for documentary, educational, and informational purposes. This video does not glorify violence or the people involved. It is intended to examine the facts, legal proceedings, and difficult questions surrounding each case, while remembering the victims and their families. Some criminal cases are difficult to understand because the people involved were still teenagers. Today, we are looking at cases involving teenage girls who became connected to shocking murders. In some cases, prosecutors described the girls as willing participants. In others, the defense argued that they had been manipulated, abused, influenced by older offenders, or acting out of fear. These cases raise difficult questions about responsibility, trauma, peer pressure, manipulation, and how the justice system should respond when serious crimes involve young people. Before we begin, subscribe to Zitty Shadow and turn on notifications for more true crime stories, mysteries, investigations, and real cases. Let's begin. 1. Krista Pike. On January 12, 1995, 18-year-old Krista Gale Pike and two accomplices lured 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer to a secluded area near a Job Corps facility in Knoxville, Tennessee. What followed became one of the most notorious murder cases in the state. The attack was prolonged and extremely violent. Investigators later learned that a piece of Colleen's skull had been taken as a trophy. Because of the disturbing nature of the evidence, the case received extensive public attention. To understand how Krista Pike arrived at that moment, it is important to examine her childhood. Krista's early life was marked by instability and neglect. Her parents' marriages were troubled by conflict and infidelity. In 1988, Krista's paternal grandmother died. Krista later described her grandmother as the only person she believed had truly loved her. She reportedly attempted suicide several times beginning in elementary school and spent time in psychiatric treatment and juvenile facilities. Later, Krista enrolled at the Knoxville Job Corps Center. There, she developed an interest in the occult and began a relationship with fellow student Tatterall Shipp. According to prosecutors, jealousy was a motive for the murder. Krista believed that Colleen was interested in Tatterall. What might have remained a teenage relationship conflict escalated into a planned attack. Krista and her accomplices used several weapons during the assault. Investigators said a pentagram had been carved into Colleen's chest, and that she had also been struck in the head. After Colleen died, Krista kept a piece of her skull and later showed it to other students at the Job Corps facility. That decision became important to investigators. Physical evidence, witness accounts, and Krista's own statements helped connect her to the crime. When questioned, Krista reportedly claimed that the group had intended only to frighten Colleen and that the situation had gone too far. Prosecutors rejected that explanation. They argued that the length and organization of the attack showed deliberate and sustained violence. Krista Pike was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. She became the youngest woman sentenced to death in the modern era of capital punishment in the United States. Tatterall Shipp received a life sentence, while the third accomplice received a lesser sentence. Krista remained on death row while pursuing appeals and seeking a reduction of her sentence. In 2023, an appeal based on her status as a juvenile was denied. In late 2025, Tennessee issued an execution warrant for Krista Pike. Her execution is currently scheduled for September 30, 2026. If carried out, she would become the first woman executed in Tennessee in more than 2 centuries. Krista remains incarcerated at the Deborah K. Johnson Rehabilitation Center in Nashville while her legal options continue. The case has remained in the public eye for decades because it involved jealousy, prolonged violence, occult imagery, and the taking of a trophy, but at the center of the case was Colleen Slemmer, who was only 19 years old when her life was taken. 2. Valessa Robinson. In 1998, Valessa Robinson was 15 years old when she became involved in the killing of her mother, Vicki Robinson, at their home in Tampa, Florida. Valessa had been dating Adam Davis, a 19-year-old with a criminal record. Her mother strongly opposed the relationship. Vicky had become increasingly concerned about Davis's influence, Valessa's drug use, and what appeared to be Davis's control over her daughter. Eventually, Vicky decided to send Valessa to a Christian boarding school. She hoped that separating her daughter from Davis would give Valessa a chance to start over. Instead, that decision became part of the chain of events that led to Vicky's death. On the night of the murder, Valessa was under the influence of LSD along with Davis and another teenager, John Wispel. The three were inside the Robinson home when they turned against Vicky. The attack involved choking, the injection of bleach, and multiple stab wounds. Vicky eventually died. Afterward, the teenagers attempted to conceal the body. They tried several locations before placing it in a trash container near the home. They then took Vicky's vehicle and credit cards and began traveling from Florida toward Texas. The stolen cards were used to purchase food, gasoline, and other items. Their escape ended in Texas when law enforcement spotted the stolen vehicle, leading to a high-speed pursuit. Witness statements and credit card activity helped investigators connect the teenagers to Vicky's disappearance and murder. All three were arrested and eventually returned to Florida. During the trial, the defendants gave conflicting accounts about who had planned the killing and who had carried it out. John Wispel testified that Valessa had helped initiate the plan and actively participated. Valessa's defense presented a different picture. Her attorneys argued that Adam Davis had manipulated her. They emphasized her age, Davis's influence, and the drugs she had taken. By the time she was convicted, Valessa was 17. She was found guilty of third-degree murder, grand theft, and auto theft. She received a total sentence of 20 years, 15 years for the murder charge and 5 years for the theft charges. Adam Davis received a death sentence, which was later reduced to life in prison. John Wispel received a 25-year sentence. Valessa was released from the Homestead Correctional Institution in December 2013 at age 30 after serving approximately 13 years, including credit for good behavior. Since her release, she has largely remained out of the public spotlight. Her case continues to raise questions about teenage influence, manipulation, drugs, and responsibility when a young person becomes involved with an older and more experienced offender. Free, Annika Stauksinski. In October 2020, Annika Stauksinski was 17 years old when she became involved in the killing of her friend, Madison Sparrow. Both girls were 17 and had connections through school in the Newark, Delaware, area. Madison did not know that Annika had been communicating with Noah Sharp or that the two were discussing an attack against her. According to investigators, the plan developed over approximately 10 days. Authorities later recovered text messages and other evidence documenting discussions about where the attack would occur, what weapons would be used, and how Madison would be lured to the location. The apparent motive involved Noah's belief that Madison had been spreading rumors about him and damaging his reputation. But Annika later indicated that she was not certain the rumors were real. She suggested that Noah may have exaggerated or fabricated the situation and manipulated her into becoming involved. The plan was to bring Madison to a wooded area where there would be fewer witnesses. Madison went there believing she was meeting Annika as a friend. Instead, she was ambushed by Annika and Noah. The attack involved a baseball bat and resulted in Madison's death. Afterward, they attempted to conceal the body. They dragged Madison away from the original location and tried to place her in a river, apparently hoping that the water would make the body more difficult to find. That attempt failed. Madison's body was eventually discovered near a warehouse. Investigators began reconstructing what had happened. Witness accounts and digital evidence connected Annika and Noah to the crime. The text messages were especially important because they documented the planning and communication between the two. Both were arrested and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy. In May 2022, Annika entered guilty pleas to both charges. As part of her plea agreement, she agreed to testify against Noah Sharp. Her testimony provided prosecutors with information about how the plan developed and how the attack was carried out. During her sentencing hearing, Annika expressed remorse. She said she wished she could take everything back and acknowledge that her actions were wrong. Annika Stelczynski was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of a sentence modification hearing under Delaware's juvenile sentencing laws after serving the required period. She is expected to become eligible for that review after approximately 30 years. Noah Sharp was later convicted of first-degree murder and other related offenses. The case demonstrates how digital communication can become critical evidence in a murder investigation. It also raises questions about peer influence, manipulation, and the decisions teenagers make when they are influenced by someone they trust. If you found this documentary informative, subscribe to Zitty Shadow for more true crime cases, mysteries, investigations, and stories that deserve to be remembered. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next case. And remember, behind every headline is a real person, a real family, and a story that changed lives forever. This is Zitty Shadow. Thank you for watching.